Welcome to the Unitarian Universal Church of Little Rock, where love is our teaching and service is a prayer. I'm Gene Miley. I'm many things here. I'm board member, president-elect, choir member. I'm not the janitor, though. Maybe that's next. If you're a newcomer, we're glad you've chosen to worship with us. While you're here, please stop by our guest table out in the foyer. Fill out a guest card so you could have information about our church. I now invite Martha Remmer to come forward to light the chalice and lead us in our affirmation of covenant, which is printed in your bulletin.
I light this chalice with these words. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful, open our minds to learn what is true, open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, which is printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
We are worlds within the world. In my world, I have lately been revisiting the collected essays of James Luther Adams, a Unitarian theologian of the last century. Adams began his career as a parish minister and later became a professor at Harvard Divinity and Andover Newton Theological Schools and at Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. He had great influence on Unitarianism early on as a member and co-founder of the Greenfield Group, a study group for Unitarian ministers in New England, and later through his seminary teaching. If you have encountered a Unitarian Universalist congregation where members talk about the 5 smooth stones of a liberal faith, you have encountered the legacy of James Luther Adams. Among the gems in his published work is an essay he wrote in 1934 about an English theologian with the improbable name Baron Friedrich von Hugel, who was born in Florence, Italy, where his father was the Austrian ambassador to the Grand Duchy of Tuscany before Italy became unified. He was born a year before his father left that post for his next as ambassador to Belgium. And he moved to England with his parents when he was 15 and remained in England and remained Catholic for the rest of his life. Adams began his essay recounting von Hugel's great influence in his day. Contemporaries called him one of the deepest thinkers of our day, the most powerful apologist for the Roman Church now living, even the greatest Roman Catholic lay theologian in history, and the greatest in Catholicism since John Henry Newman. Responding to an example of such praise, which he read one day in the London Times Literary Supplement, von Hugel wrote to the paper, "A dog who is quietly conscious of being but a dog, and of having long striven just to be a dog and nothing more or other, may be allowed perhaps to feel some perplexity amidst his gratitude upon finding himself first prize among the cats." Adams commented, "It might be said that Friedrich von Hugel commands attention because he tried only to be himself in the highest degree and not an apologist for the Roman Catholic Church." In that same letter to the London Times, von Hugel recounted that in 1883, he wrote, "A far-sighted friend pressed upon me the religious problem of a long life, pure, truthful, modest, laborious, affectionate, and without one trace of hunger for God, the other, or the more. The problem has never left me since then," he said. In a word, commented Adams, von Hugel was anxious to dispose the modern man or woman who feels content with a purely secular or scientific worldview to envisage the self and the environment in a larger context. In another of his essays called Taking Time Seriously, Adams wrote about how his own thinking about religion had evolved. Raised in a very conservative Christian family, he described his father as a Baptist country preacher of premillenarian persuasion. As a young adult, Adams felt that his frame of reference had been too narrow, even when he expanded his reading into non-Christian sources. He illustrated this feeling with reference to the two paintings reproduced on the cover of your order of service, both called The Sower, painted by the 19th century French artist Jean-François Millet. Millet painted this subject many times, at first tightly focused on the figure of the sower. Adams wrote, "Like the Millet of the later and better known painting, I felt that the man should be placed in a larger setting so that there might be two protagonists rather than one, the man and the earth upon which he is dependent for the growth of his seed." Now, looking at both versions of the painting, we might notice that there are already two protagonists in each. There in the foreground is the sower, and far in the background is another man plowing, preparing the sower's ground for him. Thus, both versions refer to human relationship, to community, to interdependence, a topic not lost on Adams. He was one of our foremost and deepest thinkers about the theme of human connection, and especially about the idea of covenant, now so central to our articulation and practice of our faith. But Adams emphasized, in comparing these two images, how the tight focus on the first obscured, and we might say marginalized, the earth, the given environment in which our lives unfold, the bigger picture. Garrett Kaiser's poem, The Firehouse, evokes another kind of expanded consciousness expressed in time rather than space. Right away, the real estate sign is recognized as a prank because weren't we just inside last month? And didn't they raise it themselves only a year ago? See the expanding time frame. And again, human relationship, community, and interdependence are there in the intergenerational gathering at the firehouse. And the firehouse is ours, he says, specifically our handhold against the danger in the night. This building represents a bigger picture. A feeling of gratitude in the poem is vividly implicit. And equally so, I feel, is gratitude implicit in our observances so far this year of our congregation's 75th anniversary. In the slideshows that Jerry Blackburn has put together to show on the big TV during coffee hour, and in the number of other delights in preparation for later in the church year, I know there is a song and a skit in the works and a participatory art project, and I'm sure a number of other celebratory or forward-looking activities will enter the mix. And it's not too late, by the way, right, Debbie, to cook up something else we can do to look back and also forward in this anniversary year toward what we are building and becoming this month's Sunday services are adding up to a celebration of what we are. A community with a mission to be our handhold on love and justice and spiritual growth. In each of the last 3 services, we've heard many voices witnessing to all that our church offers. And I've heard a lot of gratitude in that witness, haven't you? Before we top it off next Sunday with a special service of celebration that the worship arts team has planned, that will be, remind you again, in the Meadow Wing, and Forum will be here. Swap spaces for a morning. I want to pause this morning to reflect on that implicit theme of gratitude that's been going all month. It's a good touchstone as we continue this year to look back and look ahead. On November 2nd, we explored the ongoing spiritual practice of journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions, seeking ways of moving and being in this volatile world that promote a consciousness of the bigger picture of our common humanity and dignity. On the 9th, we heard testimonies of how our church community nurtures personal and spiritual growth among us with love, our teaching, and service, our prayer. And last Sunday, we heard about how covenant groups provide an intentional space for that kind of mutual nurture. And in the process, train us in the skills that help us make and keep this church a beloved community. Taken together, these services have celebrated this congregation's 75-year journey to become who we are today. Everything this community has been and done and passed along to its next generation has gotten us to here and now. All the good things and even the not so good things have taught us what we know about being beloved community and how we want to be with each other. My sister Kathy has a friend, Bridget Brennan, who is a lay Catholic, Catholic lay minister is what I'm trying to say, who founded an organization called the Cana Institute, which offers resources and workshops to support the spiritual life of families. Every so often, Kathy forwards Bridget's blog to me. This past week, it was about gratitude. Kathy knew I'd be talking about gratitude today because we talk on the phone every week. Bridget focused last week on remembering a larger picture of how a significant segment of our population lives, the gaps between the poor, the working poor, the middle class, the wealthy, and the extremely wealthy. She noted that for the last approximately 45 days, churches and nonprofits and food pantries have been begging for donations due to the uncertainty of SNAP funding, as well as the hundreds of people who've been furloughed during the government shutdown. It's going to take weeks, maybe months, for many people and small businesses to recover from the shutdown. She expressed her deep gratitude for the estimated 5 to 7 million people, about 1 in 50 Americans, who gathered in all 50 states, many braving rain and chilly weather to participate in very peaceful No Kings rallies on October 18th. Their awareness and their willingness to speak out with their presence, she said, is a sign of hope that makes her feel not only grateful, but encouraged. And she shared a personal spiritual practice that helps her maintain her awareness of that larger picture. She called it a practice to make some choices in the context of solidarity. She wrote, "Even if I can afford some particular item, I monitor the cost out of awareness that many people cannot afford that." In other words, she's not thinking about her personal budget, but registering that larger reality in our society. It's an effort, she said, to avoid getting snagged into thinking that more is better. And I know that many of you ask yourselves, how much do I really need? With that kind of bigger picture consciousness, especially those of you who may be downsizing. Bridget wrote, gratitude is the doorway to peace and well-being. What gratitude does for us is open our minds and hearts to life beyond us. It reminds us that all of life is a gift. Life is a both and. Life is dynamic, not static. Some days the glass overflows, and some days it dips pretty low. Still, there is always something for which to be grateful. There's a saying attributed to the 14th century mystic Meister Eckhart: if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. We are worlds within the world. May we each find ways to nurture and cultivate gratitude in our lives and for each other. So may it be. Amen.
Now, I invite Martha to come forward and put out the chalice. Please say with me our closing words, saying, go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings.
And may you live into gratitude for the worlds within worlds we all are.